In this lesson, we're going to talk about a couple of features of character out, or the cout stream, that we haven't seen in other lessons in this course or in the previous introductory course. We understand that cout is used for writing out streams of bytes or characters or other objects as well, but we're certainly used to characters. So for example, to write out the string hello world, we send it to cout using the put2 operator. And then when we want to write a new line at the end of that, we add indel to the end. And so these objects, this string and this new line character, are sent to cout, or you could say they're streamed to cout, would be one way to look at that. There's also a way to output individual characters using something called the put function. But we can't use double quotes because they're characters, so they have to be written out as single quotes. So we can write out the word hello using put. So let's give that a shot here real quick. Let's get rid of cout hello world because we know how that works. And if we build and run this program, there's hello, written out as a series of characters rather than as a series of bytes or string characters. If we want to put a new line at the end, we can also do that like so. Let's finish out the whole example of hello world. It's going to take a minute. Almost finished. Let's get our exclamation point, and then we can also do a new line right after the exclamation point, like so. Let's build and run that program. And there's hello world done very tediously using put for putting individual characters. And then we demonstrated that you can cascade puts by using the dot operator and string puts together as many as you need. When we write cout hello world and indel, we know what happens. What we might not realize is that indel not only writes out a new line, but it also flushes a buffer that is part of every I/O object that we read or write to. So in this case, cout, we're writing to cout, we have a buffer, a place in memory that we actually write to. And then at a certain point in time, then when the buffer is flushed, and that's the term that is used, then the output is actually written to the object, to cout, to standard output. There are also other ways we can work with the buffer. For example, if we want to flush the buffer immediately, there's a object flush, which will have us flush the buffer as soon as it reaches that keyword. Another example is which writes a null character and then flushes the buffer also. Now normally you'll only use indel, but there may be situations where you want to flush the buffer early because you're worried about filling it up too much. Say you're dealing with large chunks of text rather than a simple string like hello world. Then you might choose to use flush. Indes probably is not going to happen very often. You hardly ever need to write a null. That might occur in some programming where you're working with C operations as opposed to C++. But flush could come into play sometimes when you want the buffer flushed immediately because you're afraid you're going to fill it up. And when you fill it up, you get something called buffer overflow, and that can lead to program crashes and errors. So that wraps up this lesson on working with stream output and cout. Now let's move to the next lesson where we're going to talk about some varying aspects of input using cin and some of its variations.